Students, we're still in section 3.3 and we're working on example 3. We just got through 2 exhausting examples. I don't know about you, but those wore me out trying to teach you how to identify the independent and dependent variable. That's just a difficult thing in general, but you hung in there and you did a great job. So now we're going to expand that a little bit and we're going to learn to write a function rule. Okay? And a function rule is just an algebraic expression that defines a function. So we see what's going on. We're just writing an equation, just like we did in example 1. We're identifying the independent and dependent variables. So that was example 2. And now function rule, function notation is the special way that algebra professors and top algebra teachers are going to show you. You're going to see this function notation a lot on the state test. I want to demystify it. This is the function. It can be f of x, g of x, a of b. It's just a letter and then parentheses and then another letter. The most common one we're going to use is f of x, and that's how you read it, f of x. And it means the same thing as y. So in the margin here, I want you to write y is, or y equals f of x. So when you see that really weird function notation, don't sit there and let it confuse you. It's not meant to confuse you. It's just another name for y. Okay? Now, what I noticed in your book, it's a great, what they said is, y is equal to f of x. Y is the function of x. Okay? So if you want to look at this, f of x. F is function. Y is the function of x. In other words, I got to plug something in for x to figure out what y is. That's a function. That's what a function is. So I gave you an example. I said, okay, y equals 5x. You can write that like this. F of x is equal to 5x. Because f of x is another name for y. They're interchangeable. Okay? They're interchangeable. All right, so let's look at example 3. Writing functions. Identify the independent and dependent variables. That's going to be important, because that'll tell us which ones are x and which ones are y. And then we're going to write an equation in function notation for each of the situations given. Okay, so we're looking at letter A, and here's our situation. A lawyer's fee is $200 per hour for her services. Okay? So as you're looking at this, the lawyer's not going to know how much to charge you unless she knows how many hours she spent with you. So you can't do anything with the fee until you know number of hours. Okay? So let's write that out. Fee, number of hours. And just like we did in the last example, we're going to apply it here. I don't know what the fee is. I know she charges $200 for every hour, but I don't know how much the bill is going to be, the total fee is. I have no idea until I know what the number of hours is. So I got to figure this part out first. That's my independent variable. This is going to be my x, okay? And my fee depends on how many hours that she worked with this client. And I don't know how many hours. So if I don't know, that's my x. And then my fee depends on that number of hours. So this is my dependent variable, and that's my y. We learned in the last video series that dependent variable is your range, that's your y, that's your output. Independent variable is your x, or your input. Okay? All right, so now we know what x is, now we know what y is, and now we're going to write an equation. So a lawyer's fee, we're going to take the first part of that. That would be y. We named her fee y, because that's the dependent variable. Is, circle that word. Is in math always means equals. $200 per hour. Number of hours is your variable X. If you're charging $200 for every hour, that's 200 times X. And there's your equation. Now, to write it in function notation, all you would need to do is rename the Y. What's another name for Y that I told you above is function notation. And if you said f of x, you're exactly right. This is the same thing. Okay? So we identified the independent and dependent variable, and we wrote our equation in function notation. We did all three things that they asked us to do. So great job on that. All right, now let's flip the page. We're going to do the same thing with this situation. The admission fee to a local carnival is $8. This $8 is a one-time fee. That's going to help you because some of you are going to think that there's a variable attached to that, and there's not, okay? Each ride costs $1.50. So this is what we're not sure about, okay? So we want to compare total cost and number of rides, okay? Those are the two things that we need to figure out, you know, which one's the dependent variable, which one's the independent variable. So here's your one-time fee, and this is the other part right here that's going to help you figure out how much money is going to be towards your total cost. Okay? So I'm going to leave this as extra credit. So I'm trying to get you started here. I'll talk you through the first part of it, and then you see if you can come up with the rest of it. Remember, I don't know how much money I'm going to spend until I figure out how many rides I'm going to take. So that's the first thing I got to figure out is number of rides. So is that independent or is that dependent? Okay? And then the other one, total cost, would then be the opposite. Okay? Now when you write this, of course it's going to be y equals, you're going to have your flat rate. Okay? So that's your one-time fee. Hey, you want to go to the carnival? That'll be $8, one-time fee. And then if you want to ride a ride, you got to pay an additional $1.50 for every ride you go on. Okay, so are you seeing it in your mind's eye? What should go here? Your one-time fee plus your ride total, however much that is, because I don't know. I don't know how many rides are being ridden. And then you want to turn that into function notation. So what's another name for the y? That's what we're doing. That's function notation. Okay, good luck with that. Bring your questions to class, and thanks for hanging with me. I know it's been hard. You're doing great. Oh, and on a side note, I did want to give you a code word, and if I didn't say it, the code word is wind. Wind. Thanks for listening.